From his humble beginnings in a log cabin to his game-changing presidency, Lincoln's story is amazing. He had epic debates with Stephen A. Douglas and gave powerful speeches that will still inspire us today. Let's dive in and find out who the real Abraham Lincoln is. But first, as always, this video is sponsored by me. I want to thank you guys so much for 97 subscribers. In the last video, I was just saying shout out for 40 subscribers, so thank you guys so much and thanks for watching the videos. Please leave a like and a comment. Alright, back to it. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809 in a one-room log cabin on the Sinking Spring Farm in Hardin County, Kentucky. His parents, Thomas and Nancy Lincoln, were humble farmers. The Lincolns were part of a migration of families from Virginia to the frontier lands of Kentucky and Indiana, but it wasn't always good for the Lincolns. You see, Lincoln's early years were marked by hardship and tragedy, including the death of his mother in 1818 from milk sickness. This really affected the young Abraham, but he turned it into a good thing. He found solace in books and learning, and his stepmother, Sarah Johnston, who his father married in 1819, encouraged his education and helped cultivate his love for reading. Also, another cool fun fact was that Lincoln was a great wrestler. He won 299 out of 300 matches that he wrestled in, apparently. Despite having less than a year of formal schooling, Lincoln was an avid reader and self-taught scholar. He read the Bible, Aesop's Fables, Shakespeare, and many other classics. In 1830 is when the Lincoln family moved to Illinois, where Abraham began to go out on his own. He worked various jobs, including as a rail splitter, store clerk, and surveyor, but his first time in politics came in 1832, when he ran for the Illinois state legislature. Though he was unsuccessful in his first attempt, he gained a lot of knowledge about politics in this time. Lincoln's interest in law then led him to become a lawyer. He studied on his own and in 1836 was admitted to the Illinois bar. He moved to Springfield, Illinois in 1837 and established a law practice. His reputation as a skilled and honest lawyer grew, so he earned the nickname Honest Abe. And then in 1842, Abraham Lincoln married Mary Todd, a well-educated woman from a prominent Kentucky family. The couple had 4 sons: Robert, Edward, William, and Thomas, though only Robert survived to adulthood. But it wasn't all good. The marriage faced a lot of troubles, as I said before, the children passing away, and as well as Mary had some mental health issues. But they stayed together. Lincoln's political career began to gain momentum in the 1840s. He served a single term in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1847 to 1849, where he opposed the Mexican-American War and supported internal improvements. However, it was his debates with Senator Stephen A. Douglas in 1858 that catapulted him into the national spotlight. The Lincoln-Douglas debates were basically the Super Bowl of the 1800s. The debates centered on the issue of slavery's expansion into the territories. While Douglas advocated for popular sovereignty, allowing states to decide on the legality of slavery, Lincoln argued that slavery was morally wrong and should not be spread. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. Although Lincoln would eventually lose the Senate race to Douglas, these debates showcased his stance against slavery, which would then set the stage for his presidential run. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was nominated as the Republican candidate for president. He would eventually win the presidency, and at his first inauguration in 1860, he wore the lower silk plush hat that had by that time come into fashion. He would often use his hat as a briefcase, stowing away notes and important documents in it. He was also noted as the tallest president, standing at 6 foot 4 inches. His platform opposed the expansion of slavery, but reassured the southern states that he would not interfere with slavery where it already existed. Lincoln's election in November 1860 triggered a crisis, as southern states, fearing the loss of their way of life, began to secede from the Union. Also, a little fun fact, President Lincoln was the first president to sport a beard. He grew it at the suggestion of an 11-year-old girl named Grace Bedell, who wrote him a letter stating he would look better with a beard. So, now Abraham Lincoln's the president. What does he do? Lincoln's presidency was dominated by the Civil War, a conflict that would become the bloodiest in American history. Lincoln was known to visit hospitals to personally comfort wounded soldiers, demonstrating his deep compassion and empathy. This is something that no other president would have done. As states acceded and formed the Confederate States of America, Lincoln faced the monumental task of preserving the Union. He navigated through the complexities of war with determination and strategic vision. One of Lincoln's most significant acts was the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. This executive order declared the freedom of all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory. While it did not immediately free all enslaved individuals, it transformed the nature of the war, making the abolition of slavery a central goal for the Union. Next, on November 19, 1863, Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. In just 272 words, Lincoln affirmed the principles of liberty and equality and emphasized the need for national unity. This is where the very famous line, fourscore and 7 years ago came from. Abraham Lincoln also loved animals too. According to the presidential archives, President Lincoln allowed his sons Tad and Willie to keep as many pets as they wished. That included rabbits, turkeys, horses, and even 2 goats, Nanny and Nanko. In fact, Nanny and Nanko even rode with President Lincoln in the presidential carriage. One special animal of the Lincoln White House was Jack the turkey. Now, Jack originally was on the Lincoln's dinner menu, but Tad became so fond of the bird and pleaded with his father to spare Jack's life. President Lincoln allowed it, and Jack became part of the presidential household. Apparently, a special booth was placed on the White House grounds so that soldiers serving nearby could vote on Election Day, and Lincoln's private security, Noah Brooks, and Tad, Lincoln's son, were watching from an upstairs window when they saw Jack the turkey strut out among the voters. "Why is your turkey at the polls? Does he vote?" Lincoln asked his son. "No," Tad answered. "He's not of age." Lincoln was also a big advocate for technological advancement. He was the first president to use the telegraph for wartime communication, which revolutionized the way information was shared. Not only that, but he also enjoyed reading newspaper and often visited the telegraph office to get the latest updates on the war, making him one of the most informed presidents of his time. In 1864, Lincoln was re-elected, this time with Andrew Johnson as his vice president. His second term focused on bringing an end to the war and beginning the process of Reconstruction. Lincoln's vision for a reunited nation included policies and leniency and reconciliation toward the southern states. This was huge in the public eye because it probably could have been very easy for Lincoln to shun all the southern states, but instead he wanted to bring them all back together. And supposedly during Lincoln's time in office, he would have informal cabinet meetings while laying on the floor, stretching out his long legs and getting comfortable. Supposedly this relaxed approach helped foster open communication and collaboration with everyone else. Lincoln also created the Secret Service 4 months before his assassination, but it wasn't originally intended to protect the president. It was to protect the economy against counterfeiters. At that time, over 1/3 of the paper currency in the United States was counterfeit. Tragically though, Lincoln's efforts to heal the nation were cut short. On April 14, 1865, just days after General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer, while attending a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. It is widely believed though that Lincoln saw this coming, as 3 days before his death he discussed with Ward Hill Lamon, his best friend and biographer, a dream he had in which he was assassinated. On the night he made his trip to Ford's Theater, Lincoln also told his bodyguard, William H. Crook, about having the dreams for 3 straight days, and when leaving the White House said goodbye instead of his characteristic good night. He was shot in the head and died the following morning, which sent the country into a deep mourning. Lincoln's death marked the loss of a leader whose commitment to justice, equality, and unity left an undeniable mark on American history. Abraham Lincoln's journey from a log cabin in Kentucky to the White House is a story of perseverance, courage, and unwavering principles. His leadership during one of the nation's most challenging periods helped shape the course of American history, and that is why he is one of my favorite presidents. That, and I also live in a log cabin, so I'm kind of biased. But let me know down in the comments what you think and who you want to see next. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.